Begotten is one of the major apotheoses of analog, completely pre-digital filmmaking. There is an apparent absence of computers in the production, or rather post-production, of Begotten, released not long before David Blair's Wax assertively announced a new paradigm concurrent with the advent of computer graphics in blockbuster productions. This is quite important, as this film, Begotten, is arguably one of the more influential in contemporary history, yet is very mostly inimitable by its very nature. The influence of Begotten is overt. The auras of mystery surrounding the smarmily ambiguous dreams of horror creative writing on the internet, creative writing rather than fiction, I'll distinguish the two because one is warranted here, or on these predominantly pandering attempts at viral nightmare fuel visually, via imaginatively lazy, plainly self-adoring efforts to drill into the neuropathological ley lines of psychoterror. They are usually far too excited about their prospective reactions to offer anything of any value in the long term, from the continued milking of "Don't hug me, I'm scared," the reduction of salad fingers to an insistence of an interesting personality from his dusty fans. Most of these attempts at scary or horror fiction on the internet in general, especially considering the video format, YouTube, it is mostly or entirely utter garbage. Begotten wannabes everywhere, anything to do with Reddit, mostly creative writing dribble over there, anything which proclaims itself also on the right, culturally, their art is quite mostly totally effortlessly soulless, and in a way that isn't interesting, just predictably insecure, pandering for a reaction, not really entrancing. Begotten was composed to fulfill an urge, not to curate clout on the internet, or on MTV and in the minds of trend-following popular music fans of the later 20th century either, as Begotten's influence on the Marilyn Manson world of the 1990s was not clear really at the time, but obviously the aesthetic of many horror to music videos is completely ripped by this film, and shamelessly, incredibly poorly. So Begotten deserves to be known. Those who attempt to follow in its footsteps for the sake of cultivating an image. There's a reason Elias Merhige hasn't attempted to make a career milking Begotten. He only returns to the premise when he feels that compulsion to. The third film in the so-called trilogy has not, to my knowledge anyway, received a proper distribution. Not only does he not want to make money off of the project, he doesn't want it to be widely seen, or ubiquitous, also potentially or defaultly ubiquitous, as the internet can make anything. Begotten is reduced via being appreciated on TikTok or Tumblr or Twitter. Begotten was best appreciated by those in the dead of night in a wrathfully Balladian suburbia, downloaded via a humble torrent on the internet, and with eyes glued to the screen, you wonder what it means, and it transforms the world out there into something even more of a mystery and magic, and one which is now more plausibly exciting, yet it makes you want to stay indoors even more or less. Although one now has this magic Begotten to remind one of the imaginative potentials in our species' artistic history, empowering hope for the future of the creative cycles. Begotten cannot be truly matched via digital, only superseded or evolved from, without capturing or altering the ruthlessly distinctive pathology, the penetrating aesthetic of Begotten. Even an audacious attempt to solely employ analog celluloid technology in order to compose something akin to Begotten, it will be too much of an admission of a retrocentric, incredibly bland disdain for the modern cinema, something no one needs to hear or believe about the medium considering the capabilities. Some believed cinema to be dead when Begotten was released. Now, maybe they hadn't seen Begotten, wouldn't be taken by Begotten, or maybe they had seen Begotten but felt as though it was too obscure to insist with that cinema was not dead. Yet Begotten's existence is quite positive proof that cinema was not dead then, and it remains proof that the species is capable of composing works which completely come out of nowhere, totally reorienting the priorities of attempted outsider artists. Remember, Eraserhead and Eraserhead appreciation is one thing. Begotten and Begotten appreciation is another entirely. Probably the greatest film ever made. You could have all the money in the world and never realize anything as interesting, captivating, stimulating, and compelling as the Elias Merhige's masterpiece Begotten. If you are not a fan of Begotten, I wholly understand, and maybe you are someone who doesn't understand the appeal of Begotten. It is a mystery to yourself why I and others passionately appreciate this picture. It is firstly the aesthetic, the craftsmanship of Begotten, and it is a mood which one doesn't necessarily anticipate that they would desire until they sit down and start the film. Moving pictures, or more broadly animation, is to be, or ought to be, offered the same scale of leeway offered to still images in the art gallery, and Begotten is one of the most lucid and cogent films when considering the capacities of its medium within that more infinitesimal parameter, or not, no parameters. An unsurpassable event.